On this episode of Big Sky Now, we take a deep dive into 4 teams inside the Big Sky Conference. We also make some more preseason picks, and we talk about some Big Sky players that are currently in the NFL. And it all starts right now. Welcome, everyone. I am Luke Schmit, your new host of the Big Sky Now podcast. I'm very thrilled to be joined by Daily Interlake Sports editor Fritz Neighbor, Daily Interlake Sports reporter Jon Allen, Coeur d'Alene sports reporter Mark Nelke, and Columbia Basin Herald sports reporter Mike Maynard. Let's not waste any time and get right into it. Last episode, there was some brief preview of the Big Sky teams. I wanted to dig a little deeper this week, and next we'll try and cover all Big Sky teams before the season starts. Let's start with Montana. Montana loses 26 players to graduation from last year. They have a total of 50 new players that will take the field, including 28 transfers, 22 freshmen. We are going to see quite a different roster this year for Fritz. Kind of just want to get your opinion on some key position battles or storylines you find interesting.
Okay, well, I think we should mention quarterback because KLE Ayat was a starter last year, and he got banged up a lot and was in and out of the lineup. And then he missed spring drills, or most of them. So it might be a little bit of a quarterback battle because he's there. And the Jensen kid from USC, Jake Jensen, who played well in the spring game, is there. And Luke Flowers, the kid out of redshirt freshman out of Rigby, Idaho, is on the scene. And Cody Schreck from Columbia Falls is still one of the 6 quarterbacks taking snaps and throwing passes. They have him listed as athletes still on the roster, but he's wearing a quarterback's number 18. And Gage Slider is one of the 6 Glacier kid. He's probably down the depth chart a ways, but he did play in the spring game. I'm interested to see who gets those carries behind Eli Gilman at running back. He's obviously a stud, back for trying for a 3rd straight 1,000-yard season. Couple guys really showed up in limited action last year, Stevie Rocker Jr. and Malaya Bonotti. So that's kind of something to watch. One of Chase Reynolds' kid, Talon. Chase is a legend in the program, and his kid Talon looked great in the spring game. See if he shows up. And then hopefully I won't take up too much time here, but safety is what I'm wondering about because there's the top 6 safeties in terms of tackles, all either graduated or decided not to come back. And I need to correct the record from our last podcast. I was talking about how I was excited to see Chase Klusevich do this season, and he retired. He had a year left, but he didn't come back. And he's a kid who had 4 interceptions last year, but he also missed 3 games, and he's always fought the injury thing. So the Frenchtown Flash will not be in the lineup. So now you wonder, Cade Boyd of Central, who had all of 3 tackles, is a top returning tackler. Within the program, they got a couple of nice transfers. BYU kid named Micah Harper is back. Idaho's Diesel Wilkinson comes across, former Vandal, now a Grizz. And then, you wonder if the Glacier Flash Casco Kachia, who will be a redshirt freshman this year, might rise up in the front. And I should mention Finn Ridgway. He's now wearing number 39 that Klusevich wore last year. Ridgway, of course, was a Whitefish quarterback who went over and played D2 at Mankato State and then transferred in the spring. So those are the big 3. I mean, there's going to be position fights everywhere. They lost 11 starters on defense, so everywhere is going to be a battle. But those are the 3 that stuck out today.
Yeah, no, awesome analysis, Fritz. That was such great info. Jon, let's flip the question over to you. What's intriguing to you about this season for the Grizzlies?
Yeah, I mean, Fritz kind of just mentioned it there with the defense. Everywhere on the defense, I feel like is just going to be who steps up this year. Montana's always known for their defense. Both Montana schools are. So, they're going to be players who do step up, who is going to take that initiative and fill in the holes left with 11 starters leaving. So, but if you look at elsewhere, I kind of wanted to mention the wide receiver position because, you lose Keelan White, you lose Junior Bergen, you lose Sawyer Racanelli, all probably more that I'm missing right now, but who's going to be the next to step up? I know Glacier's Drew Deck is out there. Fritz always likes to kind of dote on him and see him get his touches. So how he kind of fit into the wide receiver position, who else will step up in that way. I'm also interested with the halfback position because I know Bobby Houck loves to run multiple running backs, 2 at least, sometimes 4 or 5 if it's a good day. So who steps up to share the carries with Gilman, or does Gilman kind of break out as a sole number 1 back? We'll see how that works. And then the quarterback question as well. The split quarterbacks was not a very loved tactic by Montana fans this last season. So I'm sure they will the fans will be wanting to see one person step up as a starter, and who will that be between Jensen and Ayat or somebody else?
Yeah, if you had to predict, John, right now, who do you think takes snaps week 1 for the Grizzlies?
Week 1, I'd like to see Ayat take the snaps.
Yeah. And Mark, let's get over to you. What are some things you're looking here over at Montana? Just anything interesting to you for the roster, new team, defense, just like we hit on?
Yeah, it's just kind of like John and Fritz talked about the quarterback battle. It's kind of like they have 3 or 6 or however many, and it's always been if you've had more than one, you don't really have any. So maybe it's not that bad over there, but there was a reason they kind of went back and forth last year, level of play, and, the injuries were a factor too, but it'd be nice if someone stepped up at quarterback. I don't know if there's a next Junior Bergen in Missoula. I don't, maybe I have to do it by committee. Defensively, seemed like they lost a lot of people. So how's that going to bounce back? And I'm curious to see what they do with Michael Worthen, kick returner, running back. He played a little quarterback at Eastern. I don't know if he's going to play at Montana, but hey, the way those guys are shaping up, you never know. And then the other one would be Fritz mentioned Diesel Wilkinson. Didn't play a whole lot at Idaho last year, but he's from here, so we're kind of curious see how the former East Valley High of Spokane guy does over there, if he kind of works his way into the rotation. Plus, how can you not root for someone named Diesel? So.
Absolutely. And Mike, the floor is yours if you want to just finish it up here for Montana, and I can give my 2 cents after that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess it'd be fair to preface, I'm still fairly new to the area, getting familiarized with Big Sky Conference and whatnot. So I've had a lot of fun doing my research today. And I think actually one thing that really does intrigue me about the Grizz is the efforts that they put in the transfer portal, especially in the trenches. Got 4 new offensive linemen and 4 new defensive linemen. A lot of times in football, a difference can be made significantly in the game, depending on the productivity of those areas of a lineup. So I'm interested to see how those new pieces play into their game plan and just overall how they succeed or lack thereof based off of that.
Yeah, absolutely. No. And I think we see Kent Baer come back, defensive coordinator and linebacker coach on some of those good defensive teams for the Grizzlies. Like you guys mentioned, Wartham's transferring in. How can they utilize him as, a key weapon, see what they can do with him on the field. Also, Peyton Wing, as we discussed, transferred with second team in Big Sky last year. I think it's going to be great to see him in a Montana jersey and understanding if he's going to make an impact on the defense. 8 home games this year. It's going to be first road game is not till October. So very interested to see what that first road game is going to look like for Montana. And overall, offensive line, they are returning quite a bit of players. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how dynamically they run the ball. Like John was saying, a couple different running backs, if Gilman's going to be the lead back. So should be an interesting year for Montana. But let's jump over to Bozeman. The Bobcats are coming off a historic year, as we know. They were undefeated in the regular season for the first time since 1956 and returned to the FCS championship for their second time in 4 years. They've lost some key players from last year's team, as we know, but Big Sky Coach of the Year, Brent Vigen, is definitely getting his troops ready for battle. And Fritz touched on it last episode about Vigen and being confident. So I kind of want to ask you, Fritz, what are you expecting from this offense now that they're losing Malott? Do you see a different style, different scheme? Kind of want to get your opinion on that.
I think we'll see more of the kind of offense that they ran in the previous years. Malott spent last season healthy, which hadn't happened before. You know, he kept getting banged up here and there with his ankles. And so they were running 2 quarterbacks, and they're running, it seemed like a fleet of good running backs. And one of those guys from 2 years ago, he was all conference, Julius Davis, didn't get much time last year because of injuries. He's back. So between him and Adam Jones, who's had a superb freshman year, and this O-line that they plan to have just be every bit as good as they were last year, I don't think it might matter very much who plays quarterback. You know, there's 4 good candidates. They have a Stanford transfer, Lamson. Patrick Duchesne is who I'm kind of rooting for because he's from Florence. And I just don't know if it's really going to matter a whole lot who plays quarterback until maybe November 22nd when they come over to Washington Grizzlies Stadium. I just think they're going to continue to run the ball with authority, including with their quarterback, and be hard to stop.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Jon, I kind of want to hear your input as well on the upcoming season for Montana State. Also wanted you to maybe touch on, they have a tough couple first games, starting at Oregon, going to be their first game, and then at home versus South Dakota State. So if you maybe wanted to touch on the impact, if that might bode well for the Cats this year, and just overall what you're going to think happens.
Yeah, well, I mean, Brent Vigen's going to find out, regardless of who he starts at quarterback, what they're made of right away with Oregon and South Dakota State, because those are 2 very difficult teams, even at the FBS level with Oregon. And South Dakota State's made their name these past, 4 years, 5 years at the FCS level. So looking at it early on, I'm seeing kind of 3 players splitting reps. It's been Lamson, Wilson, and Duchesne, kind of taking the first team reps through the early practices of the fall. One thing I kind of wanted to know is that Taco Dollar mentioned earlier this fall also. Last season with the Bobcats having Malott, they were set unless he got hurt. After that, it was kind of a scramble. This year, Taco Dollar saying this team, if somebody gets hurt, it's just next man up. They've got all these options now at quarterback. Everybody can make a play from what they've seen in practice. So, for a Montana State fan, that's got to be a great sign following up Tommy Malott, just knowing that if your team stars, know that you're in good hands. The running game's still going to be the same. The offensive line's still going to be great. Montana State's always next man up, and building off of that, Brent Vigen said that he expects this team to almost be better on the offensive line than last year, and that's kind of crazy considering of how much they did lose. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting seeing who does take the start on the first week against Oregon. But I think with how dependable the running game is, it's going to be a not as big of a deal as maybe one is thinking, or maybe as it would be for some other teams as well.
No, absolutely. And Mike, your expectations here on this Bobcat team coming this year for the Big Sky Conference?
Yeah, I think they just pick up where they're going to definitely try to pick up where they left off. Looking at a lot of what their season was last year, I mean, that national championship loss, just short of it. It's not like they got blown out or anything. I mean, very competitive game it looked like, and the fact that the coach feels like they're getting better in a lot of places, I think says a lot about the potential of this team, and their ability to come out and just have another dominant season. And it's no surprise to me that they've been picked as favorites in the Big Sky Conference to come out as champions, and then also probably to make another deep run in the playoffs. I really like what based on the research I've done, I really like what I see out of Adam Jones. So I think watching how he does this year and how big of a contributor he will be very fascinating to me.
Yeah, I think Malott made the running game and the passing game a lot better last year. I mean, it was good anyway, but he made it a lot better because the team had a game plan for him. I mean, it wasn't necessarily just handed off to their really good running backs. They had to worry about him keeping it and running around the end for 60 yards like it seemed like he did about once a game. So I think that'll be a big change if they just have a guy that's back there handing off and stuff like that. So they might stack up more against the running backs. And passing game, they got some good receivers. Again, how can you not root for a guy named Taco Dollar? So, but they're going to be, their quarterback play is going to be important. The guys, whoever it ends up being, is going to have to be able to make some throws, because eventually, against the better teams, they might not be able to run the ball as well. and they won't have Tommy Malott, as a dual threat on the outside where the defender doesn't know whether to run at him or stay with a receiver and stuff like that. So that will be a question mark to see how good these quarterbacks are. So other than that, they got, like I said, Adam Jones, and they got Davis, and they got good receivers. So they're all set. They're all set throughout the offense. It's just, how good a quarterback play do they get?
Yeah, and for me, I'm really interested to see Kenneth Eden, Paul Barat this year on the defensive line. Had great years last year. They're coming back. Could be even more dominant, cause more problems in the Big Sky. So I'm really interested to see how that defensive line looks. As we discussed, the offensive line, they're confident in. They've got weapons with Dowler, Jones at running back. So, yeah, it's looking pretty promising for Montana State again, and we shall see. But Vegans definitely got the right recipe. Now over to more familiar ground for you, Mark. Let's discuss the Idaho Vandals. They ranked 7th last season to end the year, and were 3rd in the Big Sky, going 10-4, undefeated at home, but did have some real struggles. The Vandals have 3 players on the preseason all-conference team we spoke about last week, and are ranked 12th in the Stats Perform FCS preseason top 25 poll. So, Mark, give us some insight on what interests you and kind of what you're hearing around the area on the Vandals.
Yeah, I guess starting off the quarterback, I'm curious to see how much better Joshua Wood is than the 2 guys they had that played there last year. And he's kind of a dual threat guy, where the others 2 are, well, Joseph X more of a runner, and the other guy does both. Wagner does both. He's more of a thrower, actually. But anyway, the fact that, they went through spring ball with those guys, and then right after spring ball, they say, hey, we need another quarterback. And so they went and got him. But, I mean, they knew of him because Thomas Ford, when he was at Idaho a couple of years ago, recruited Wood to Idaho. He tried to get him, but then Fresno State came along. It's like, okay, well, good luck at Fresno State, They didn't, there wasn't much they could do about that. So when he became available, they got him back. So we'll see how good he is. This is the 2nd straight year they've had to replace, a dozen or so players that went in the portal. I mean, I don't know if any other team in the Big Sky had that happen to them in either year or both years or whatever, but that's a lot of people to replace. And last year they still got back to the level that they did. Was it semifinals, quarterfinals? Quarterfinals. Yeah, until they, So they got some good recruits coming in, good people off the transfer portal. Donovan Parham, defensive end from Mississippi Valley State, has been standing out. Isaiah King at linebacker is back. The defense will be the big question because they lost a lot of guys either to graduation or to Jason Eck at New Mexico or to or other transfer portals. It seemed like he took about a half a dozen of Idaho's really, really good players. Receivers, 2 of the top 2 guys, Dwyer and Hamper, went in the portal, but they got some pretty good guys. There was some concern the year before when, Hatton and the other guy, JJ, left, but they replaced them with Dwyer and Hatton. So they did fine. So, there's no reason to think these guys, Harsty and Cortez Menhavar, can step in and handle that too. So that I think people have thought maybe Idaho might take a step back with a new coach and a lot of new players. I mean, they kind of went through that last year with the same coach, but a lot of new players, and they ended up, back in the quarterfinals again. So I still think they're kind of picked where they are, 12th. That's a good spot. What were they, third or 4th in the conference picked that way? So I think they'll be another contender again.
Oh yeah, I was surprised, and I suppose maybe Mark was too. That Joshua Woods was named that early as a starter because, as we saw, Joseph Eck and Jack Wagner both played heroically at times last year during the season when the games count. So, that I'm interested in that. Hope the chemistry survives, but I also want to note that Idaho has great leadership all over. As our party at O-line. Their two top rushers that aren't quarterbacks, Nate Thomas and Elisha Cummings, are back. They got a great kicker. I'm going to miss Keyshawn James Newby. I'm going to miss saying his name every week because he went through the portal, and he's a Helmet native that played at Montana Tech before he went to Idaho. And but Idaho keeps chugging along. They're ranked for, I think, the 35th straight week. And as I've read more than once, 56 returning letter winners, which is the second most in the Big Sky. I don't know who's number one. I know it's not the Grizz. So I think Idaho's going to be fine.
Yeah, I feel like the Vandals are going to be an interesting story to watch this year. I'd put them at maybe the second most interesting whole team to look at. Maybe some scenarios like the Bobcats quarterback situation, but behind the Sacramento State, whatever's happening down there, I think the Vandals are the second most interesting team to watch, with just how they'll shape up under the new coaching staff and with all those transfers going out. I kind of went and looked over at the New Mexico roster here a few hours ago before we did this, and it felt like it was just like an all Big Sky team from last season with all all the Idaho guys. You had Scott Trey Humphrey over there, a few more Montana State and Weber State guys over there. So just kind of like where all the Big Sky guys went this last year. But I'm interested to see that quarterback situation as well. I was kind of like what Fritz said. I was surprised to see that there wasn't more of a competition, and a starter was named this early, especially with how Wagner and Josephic played with the whole revolving door situation. Of course, Jack Lane's gone now. I was waiting to see how long it would take for Fritz to mention Keyshawn James Newby. It was a little longer than I expected, honestly. So, but yeah, I'm interested to see. I think the Vandals will play well this year. I definitely think they're back in the playoffs, and like Mark said, I feel like their ranking in the preseason is probably very fitting.
Yeah, and Mike, let's just finish this Idaho preview with you. What kind of research have you seen? Obviously, I know new to the Big Sky, but what kind of is a flash in the pan you've seen on the team?
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting to hear a little bit more about the Josh Wood situation. A quarterback battle is always, really fun to watch. I think one question that I have is, if it doesn't work, is the coach going to be able to make that decision to make a change soon enough before it's too late? Or is he going to really try to stick it out? I think that'll be interesting to watch. Not to say that I think Wood's going to be really productive, or not productive at all. But I think that's very interesting. And then, they seem to be pretty aggressive in the transfer portal themselves. I think a coach's biggest rival nowadays is the transfer portal. Here and they lost a lot of guys to it, but it seems like they really invested in it, bringing in the quarterback, but then they brought in a few offensive linemen and a weapon at tight end, and Gabe Hoffman. So it'll be interesting to see how those guys adjust to the new program. If they step into starter roles, leadership roles. It seems like a pretty strong team that could go either way. The vibe that I get is certainly they'll be competing for a playoff spot.
Yeah, definitely. The Vandals we've seen the last couple of years, even though new coach turnover, still seem to have the roots on the ground of building a playoff team. And I'm excited to see if we can see that. And like Fritz said, 56 letter winners. So the development could be unhinged this year. So very excited to see what they could do. Final team we will discuss is the Eastern Washington Eagles. The Eagles finished 6th in the Big Sky last year with a 3-5 conference record, going 4-8 overall. They did win 2 of their last 3 games on the season, and including that 77-42 win over Idaho State, record-setting game. Definitely was fun to watch. Mike, this is closer to your territory, so I'll let you go ahead and give me the direction of the 2025 Eagles.
Yeah, so it looks like the season didn't go probably the way that they had hoped last year, and it seems like that's kind of been the trend the last couple years. And I think another thing that could play against them a little bit is they look like they're getting ready to switch quarterbacks as well. But who I think should end up starting Jared Taylor. Yeah. He's been with the program for a little while now, has a lot of college experience. So, it could end up working out for them. It seems like a really good runner. And then, in the passing stats as well, doesn't seem to turn the ball over very much at all. Only one interception while at Eastern Washington. So I think it's really interesting to see how that turns out. Or maybe some of the younger guys in the quarterback room might get an opportunity to get some playing time or come in on a package play of some kind. But a really standout player to me is Deshaun Wells, one of their cornerbacks. One of the 3 players named to the All Big Sky, but also a preseason All-American. So I'm really intrigued to see how that goes, how the passing game is approached this year. Seems like they're pretty run heavy or really productive in the run game. But I find it hard for a lot of teams who struggle in recent years to quickly turn it around. So I think any strides that they make, it might be finishing above 500, but not, jumping out of nowhere and winning the conference.
Yeah. John, do you think we see a better or worse season for Eastern Washington this year, in your opinion?
I feel like the Eagles there's still a lot of question marks just around this team. I feel like it's probably going to be another rough season for them. 4-8 maybe is a little bit on the lower end as last year was. Maybe I could see them being right around 500 this year. I kind of was surprised to see that they were receiving votes in the AFCA poll that came out today, Monday, when we're recording this. So that kind of surprised me a little bit. But at the same time, it's preseason poll. People throw their votes everywhere for 25th place. So, but yeah, I just feel like it's going to be another rough season for them. But we'll see how kind of the running game establishes itself early on. The quarterback situation, like Mike mentioned. So,
yeah. Let's jump over to Mike. Mike, go ahead.
No, Mike.
Mark.
Sorry, Mark. Excuse me. Sorry, Mike. I'll cut that part out. I'll restart it. And Mark, over to you. What do you think?
I'm kind of like the other guys. I mean, their defense is the big question mark. They have a new defensive coordinator, so hopefully they can stop some people. That seems to be what their problem has been the last few years. It's kind of tough. Eastern, until the last 2 or 3 years has been one of the top teams in the Big Sky, and then they just kind of fell off, and defense was a big reason why. On offense, Vesperis was supposed to be their quarterback. He's really good run pass threat, but he was injured a lot and missed games, and now he's transferred out. So like Mike said, Jarrett Taylor would probably be the quarterback, and he's a runner and a thrower, maybe even more of a runner. I know Idaho. He 2 years ago against Idaho, and they thought they were getting ready to play Vesperis. They ended up facing Jarrett Taylor, and it took them a couple of quarters to figure out how to stop him and stuff like that. So I think they'll probably be okay on offense. They don't have Chisholm anymore, but they have Nolan Holmes, so they still have another good pass catcher. Montana's gain was Eastern's loss, and Michael Wortham. I mean, he was a really good, not dual threat, triple threat, quad threat, whatever it was for Eastern. Doing about a little bit of everything. So that'll be a fun trip to when Eastern goes to Montana on November 8th. So that's how I see it. See, defense needs to get better. I think they might be a 500 team, but it's going to be up to the defense to maybe stop some people when it matters.
Well, I'll start by saying I thought last year was kind of a make or break season for Travis Best, their coach. And I think this season definitely is. And then, you lose a Vesperis to Tennessee Tech. Then they lose Wortham to the Grizz. And I went to practice today for an hour. And he's wearing number 6 and lining up at receiver. But I'm sure he'll be a huge factor in the return game with the graduation of Junior Bergen. And, I was talking with Bobby Houck in Spokane at the kickoff, and he just mentioned that Eastern fans are going, you took our favorite player. And he would say, well, he can still be your favorite player because the kid loves to play football. I think Mike's right about Jarrett Taylor. He'll be the quarterback, and he ran for 700 yards last year. And today I learned they have a legacy jersey, number 4, and it goes to Isaiah Perez. So he'll be a leader at D tackle. I saw the number 4, and it made me think of J.C. Sherritt, who was a great player at linebacker for Eastern back in the day when they were, if not winning national titles, playing for him. And defense is going to be a hard deal. I think the games go fast now. Eric Barrier is not there to throw the ball 80 times a game. Now they seem to run it with their quarterback a lot more. I see them winning 3 league games, maybe 4 again, which isn't what Eastern fans are used to. So we'll see how she goes.
Yeah, you hit it head on the nail there, Fritz. Definitely actually took a couple things I was going to say. So that's perfect. They start their season August 30th down in San Antonio. Incarnate Ward ranked 5th. Might be a tough start. So I think we'll be able to see where the leveling field is for the Eagles. But now let's jump over to a next segment I am very excited to do each week here on Big Sky Now. It's going to be our weekly picks. I know Fritz and Jon have done the past, and it's definitely been a favorite. But since they gave their picks last week, I'm going to have, since we have Mark and Mike here, let's pick our offensive and defensive MVPs, as well as your prediction for the conference winner. So, Mark, go ahead.
Okay, in the preseason voting, I picked Ty Pennington of NAU as the on offense, and partly because quarterback, he's going to have the ball in his hands a lot, and a lot of the stuff's going to go through him. We don't know yet about Josh Wood, Gilman, and Jones running backs. They'll do their thing, but there'll also probably be other running backs that get the ball too, and so they kind of cancel each other out a little bit, or they won't stand out. But I think more NAU needs Pennington to do a lot more than maybe some of these other teams need an individual person to do. So that's why I picked him. And on defense, I picked Rex Connors, the defensive back from UC Davis. Kind of the same thing. It's hard for Deep B to dominate, but they're dominate a game. But people think really highly of him, and he had chances to go elsewhere this year and play for maybe a Power 4 team and something like that. But he stayed at UC Davis. That's where he wanted his legacy to be. And so I think Isaiah King was one of the other ones that were mentioned. I think he'll have a good year. I don't know that he'll have like a Keyshawn James Newby year where they stand out with sacks and stuff like that. And Paul Brott, he might be my second choice if I had to pick a second defensive player of the year from the Big Sky. And then my Big Sky conference prediction, it's not going out on a limb. You almost give it to Montana State almost kind of by default until somebody steps up and beats them. They can beat the Grizz, they beat the Vandals, they beat everybody else that's beneath them. So it's kind of theirs, and it's their title to lose.
It is. It really is, and that's how the voting's gone in preseason. And would love to hear your picks, Mike.
Yeah, so I went with for offensive MVP. I went with Adam Jones. I think I'm a sucker for a good running back, and him being so early in his career, exploding like he did on the stat sheet. I think the sky's the limit for the guy, and it seems like with the change at quarterback, it might be a little harder for him to kind of take advantage of the run game with a lack of a dual threat quarterback. But if he's able to do that and not only build off of what he did last year but top it, I mean, I don't see why not he won't be in the running for it. I think no matter what, he'll definitely be in the running for it. Defensive MVP, it was hard not to go with Rex Connors, but I also really like Jackson Eck, just off of just what I've looked at. Led the conference in total tackles over at Idaho, and just seems very talented, also very productive in the jump that it looks like he made from his freshman to sophomore year was just, it seemed pretty outstanding. So to see if he can build off of that and also improve in other areas of the defensive game, I think he has a lot of promise. And then also for conference championship, I didn't see any reason to go against the Bobcats. They just seem very dominant. They seem to have a really tight grip on the conference. And yeah, just like Mark said, it's theirs to lose until somebody takes it from them.
Yep, absolutely. And that I'll jump that right into my picks. Yeah, I'm wearing blue for a reason today, even though I did graduate from UM. The preseason award winners for my baseball thought is going to be Adam Jones. Like we've talked about, Vegan's going to have the offensive line ready. They don't have a quarterback necessarily ready yet to take the throne, so they're going to be handing off the ball early. I think being safe is going to be their option. I think Jones was obviously a great freshman year last year, and they're going to have Taco Dowler. I do understand that on the outside, but as we know, Montana State, when they run the ball, it's pretty much impossible to beat them at home, as we saw last year if they keep that recipe up. So I think they do that again. Defensive MVP, like we've said, I think the predicted winner, Rex Connors, will follow up his great season from last year again, record-setting FCS 74 tackles, and was an award finalist. So hard to argue that. And like I said, wearing blue today, Montana State should be the Big Sky winner. Again, I think it's been a common theme and a common pick. I do think that Brawl in the Wild, though, this year is in Missoula, so that could get interesting for Montana, especially with those 8 home games. So, I do think that there could be a spin where Montana does actually have a great year and take the throne back. But as of right now, everything I'm seeing and listening, Montana State should have another great season. But let's just wrap up the show. And I just wanted to mention, Jon and I have been watching the games this weekend and just kind of wanted to get your guys' takes of Week 1 NFL preseason. We saw Tommy Mellott in a Las Vegas Raiders jersey. Junior Bergen even had 2 kick returns, punt return for 28 yards. Patrick O'Connell from Kalispell, and he was a recent Grizz, had a 3rd and goal pass breakup. So feel free, whoever wants to jump in. Basically, my question is, do you guys see any Big Sky players in the league making their mark this season for any NFL teams?
I think Mark should go. He's got a guy.
I would say Junior. As a 49er fan, I'd like to see Junior Bergen stick with that team. I mean, we've kind of treated the kickoff return and the punt return game in recent years as, a necessary evil, something to do while the coaches went and got a drink or went to the restroom or something like that. But I think, Bergen, if they let him, if they keep him and give him a chance to return, he can actually make some plays, change some field position. And I mean, we were getting to the point where sometimes we were just happy if the punt returner caught the ball. And sometimes it was like, okay, just don't catch the ball. Just let it land, because that would be better than trying to catch the ball and muff it or run it back and fumble it or whatever. So I would, selfishly as a Niner fan, I'd like to see Bergen stick and do some things in the return game for him.
Fritz, how about Mellott? You see Mellott getting any real snaps? I know it's only 1 week of sample size, but, just your opinion.
Well, they only threw them once, and it was on the blitz beater, and Seattle sniffed it out and got him for a 2-yard loss. I was kind of hoping it was Ty Okada that made that tackle on it, but it wasn't. But I think Ty made 3 stops that game, and Paddy O'Connell had 1. And then I was handing a Mark to talk about Efton Chisholm because he had 6 catches for the Patriots in that lopsided win. 6 catches for 50 yards and a TD. And in that same game, the Patriots had safety Marde Mapu, the Sac State phenom. He made 4 stops in that game as well. So that's what I saw. I mean, everybody saw Junior get that 28-yard punt return, which is great. And I thought Cam Miller was impressive. I know we're going out of conference here, NDSU, and that Easton Stick played really well for the Atlanta Falcons, NDSU kid.
Yeah, I was going to hop in and just say Fritz left off one of the Big Sky kids for the Patriots. Lan Larison got in the end zone as well there at the end for the UC Davis talent. So Chisholm,
I think he also got hurt.
Yeah, he broke his foot, if I'm not mistaken.
Something like that. Something season ending.
Yeah, unfortunate.
Yeah. He was always such a talented kid at UC Davis as well. I was thinking that he was going to have a good shot at making the roster with the Patriots. So hopefully that doesn't derail too much. But just want to give him a shout out for getting into the end zone as well. So I had another one in my head and I completely spaced it out now. So.
That's okay. Maybe Mike's thinking of it. Mike, I'll let you finish up here on the show. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a good bit of chatter about Efton Chisholm since that preseason game. Played really well. I mean, averaged 8 yards a catch and a touchdown. I think he's also getting a lot of attention just coming from Eastern Washington, and that association to Cooper Kupp is the next great Eastern Washington receiver to break out of there. So it was really cool to see that. And I think before I make a claim like that, I think I'd love to see, can it happen consistently? If he's able to continue to have a great preseason, I don't see why not. Makes a roster and then works his way into a key role with the Patriots. I think it's really a really good opportunity for him.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, first of all, I just want to thank you guys all for joining me today. For anyone listening or watching, if you have any discussion topics, general question for us to answer, we'll answer it on our episode next week. Any other week, we'd love to hear. So if you just want to drop a comment below, we'd love to engage with some of you. And even if you have a controversial take, that would be great. But to wrap things up here, I think we're all eager for football season to begin. We got one more episode next week of some preseason talk. We'll dive into some other conference teams and maybe discuss some fun week 0 memories between FBS, FCS schools we've seen, especially some Big Sky schools. But I just want to thank everyone for tuning into Big Sky Now. Please subscribe, and leave a comment, like I said, and we'll see you next week.